And here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7. RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition. And liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Good roll pitch.
Roger, roll pitch.
Humanity doesn't just wake up one day and go back to the moon. It rehearses, tests, pushes systems to their limit, and proves that the journey is possible again. That's exactly what Artemis II set out to do. A full-scale crewed mission designed not just to reach deep space, but to understand how to live and operate within it. The crew arrived at Kennedy Space Center on March 27th, with the countdown beginning 3 days later, and building toward launch on the 1st of April at 10:35 UTC from the historic launch complex 39B, the first time a crew had lifted off from that pad since 2006. Seven seconds before liftoff, the 4 RS-25 engines roared to life, building to full power before the solid rocket boosters ignited at T-0, unleashing the majority of the thrust that carried Orion skyward. Within 2 minutes, travelling at over 3,000 miles per hour and 30 miles above Earth, the boosters separated and fell back into the Atlantic. Inside the spacecraft, Commander Reed Wiseman monitored the ascent as systems handled everything automatically. After around 8 minutes, the core stage shut down and separated, leaving Orion in a stretched, elliptical orbit, reaching roughly 1,400 miles at its highest point, far beyond the altitude of the International Space Station, while still dipping low enough to remain suborbital as a built-in safety net. With the engines quiet, the mission truly began. Cook and Hansen unstrapped and immediately started configuring and testing Orion's life support system, checking everything from water to emergency equipment and even the toilet, ironing out minor issues along the way. Once satisfied, Mission Control approved a critical burn about 50 minutes after launch, lifting Orion's orbit into a stable low Earth trajectory. Not long after, a second burn lasting 15 minutes pushed the spacecraft much further out, establishing a high Earth orbit nearly 44,000 miles away with a period close to a full day. A first for any crewed mission that wasn't already committed to the moon. With its job done, the upper stage separated and became a target for one of the mission's most important tests. Victor Glover took manual control, carefully guiding Orion around it for over an hour, practicing the precise movements needed for future docking operations. Once complete, the stage was sent on a path to burn up over the Pacific, and the crew transitioned into routine operations, setting up exercise equipment, running physical tests, and preparing for the first rest period. Briefly interrupted by a small engine burn to fine-tune their orbit ahead of the next major step. That step came on flight day 2. Orion fired its main engine for just under 6 minutes, committing the crew to a journey toward the moon on a free return trajectory that would naturally bring them home. From there, the mission settled into the rhythm of deep space.
ABC News, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call Integrity for a voice check.
Integrity, this is Gio Benitez at ABC News. How do you hear me?
Outstanding. We have you loud and clear. How about us?
I hear you loud and clear, and I truly cannot believe it. You are quite literally on the way to the moon right now and still speaking with us. Tell me, how do you feel? What's going through your mind? I mean, this must be so incredible because have you allowed the weight of the moment to really fit in here? Have you allowed that to happen?
Well, first and foremost, we all wanted to give a shout out to our families first because we are pretty far from Earth and we have not gotten to say hi to them yet. But there was a moment about an hour ago where Mission Control Houston reoriented our spacecraft as the sun was setting behind the Earth. And I don't know what we all expected to see in that moment, but you could see the entire globe from pole to pole. You could see Africa, Europe, and if you looked really close, you could see the northern lights. It was the most spectacular moment, and it paused all four of us in our tracks.
A planned course correction on day 3 wasn't needed, though the crew did deal with a frozen waste system, solved by turning the spacecraft towards the Sun to thaw it out. On day 4, Cook and Hansen manually flew Orion again, testing its responsiveness far from Earth.
And currently on your screen you can see CSA astronaut Jeremy Hansen and NASA astronaut Christina Cook swapping places as they continue through the manual piloting developmental flight test objective. Again, they are performing several different attitude maneuvers to compare 6 degrees of freedom and 3 degrees of freedom attitude control on the spacecraft. 6 degrees of freedom refers to the 6 ways that a spacecraft moves. There are 3 translational degrees of freedom: forward, backward, up and down, and left and right, and 3 rotational degrees of freedom, which are roll, pitch, and yaw.
Okay, I'm going to make a comment on the pitch up. There was some roll there. I tried a different technique where I actually kind of held the orb mount at the high end of its play rather than pressing down at the low end since I was pitching up. But I think that actually made it a little bit harder to keep the roll coupling out. So for pitch down, I'll go ahead and hold it at the bottom of its play. So in this, again, in the direction, in this case, of the pitch.
Copy all.
And by day 5, a short burn refined their path as they prepared for the lunar flyby, reviewing observation plans and testing their survival suits.
Houston Integrity, seats 1 and 2, rapid dawn complete.
Copy. Rapid dawn complete. Seats 1 and 2. Thank you.
On flight day 6, Orion entered the Moon's sphere of influence, and everything changed. Lunar gravity took control as the spacecraft swept around the far side, passing just over 4,000 miles above the surface, while reaching more than 252,000 miles from Earth, further than any humans had ever travelled. As they slipped behind the Moon, communication dropped out completely for around 40 minutes, leaving the crew in total isolation. When contact returned, they had already witnessed something extraordinary, proposing names for previously unseen craters, and then observing a solar eclipse as the Moon blocked out the Sun. For nearly an hour they watched the glowing corona, saw distant planets emerge in the darkness, and glimpsed meteorite impacts flashing across the lunar surface. A view that felt more like standing inside a moving observatory than a spacecraft.
At one point, towards the end of the images of my time in window 3, I just had an overwhelming sense of being moved by looking at the moon. It lasted just a second or two, and I actually couldn't even make it happen again. But something just drew me in suddenly to the lunar landscape, and it became real. And the truth is, the moon really is its own body in the universe. It's not just a poster in the sky that goes by. It is a real place. And when we have that perspective and we compare it to our home of the Earth, it just reminds us how much we have in common. Everything we need, the Earth provides, and that in and of itself is somewhat of a miracle.
By flight day 7, Orion was already on its way home, leaving the Moon's influence behind. The crew even connected with astronauts aboard the International Space Station, marking the moment when humans were spread farther apart than ever before.
Hey, International Space Station and Jessica, we have you loud and clear. How about us?
We have you loud and clear as well, and we have BNE TV up, so we have a view of you right now, and it is making us so excited. We feel like you're here with us, and this is really just making our entire week right now.
We have been waiting for this like you can't imagine. Let me go check on our PFD. We are 201,726, now 25 nautical miles from planet Earth, which is just hard to believe. The scales are impossible to believe. And for the run of show this morning, I figured I'll say a quick hi, which I have done. I'll hand the microphone to fellow chump Jeremy. He can say a quick hi, and then we'll let you 3 A-Balls just get on.
After debriefing their observations, they rested ahead of their final stretch, making small trajectory adjustments along the way. On day 8, attention shifted to engineering data, with a planned manual test cancelled so teams could study a minor helium leak in the propulsion system. By day 9, preparations for re-entry were underway, seats were reinstalled, equipment was secured, and procedures were reviewed. On the final day, a last short burn completed the service module's role before it's jettisoned, and the crew module positions itself for the fiery return. Re-entry came fast, travelling at nearly 25,000 miles per hour. Orion plunged into Earth's atmosphere, surrounded by a sheaf of superheated plasma as it slowed from lunar speeds. Engineers had opted for a steeper descent this time, reducing heating duration after lessons learned from Artemis I. Parachutes deployed in sequence, guiding the capsule safely down to the Pacific Ocean off the coast of San Diego, where the US Navy carried out recovery operations for the first time since the 1970s. After a brief communications delay, divers stabilised the capsule, attached flotation gear, and prepared the front porch platform. One by one, the astronauts emerged, lifted into helicopters, and transported to the USS John P. Murphy for medical checks. While the capsule itself was secured and brought aboard for its journey back to Kennedy Space Center. But Artemis II was never just about the journey, it was also about what we learn along the way. Inside Orion, experiments like Avatar studied how human-like tissues responded to radiation and microgravity beyond Earth's protective shield.
The experiment that we have flying in Artemis II, I'm really incredibly excited about. It's a tissue chip model that we call Avatar. What it is you can see inside there are these tiny channels, and we populate those with cells that we take from the astronauts themselves that we can compare directly to them. We can take a drop of blood and convert it to cells that can make any type of organ within the human body. As we send this out to deep space, it will allow us to really start to understand the effect of deep space environment on our astronauts. We're looking at sustainable presence. We need to be able to take care of humans while they live and work in space. These tissue chips are going to allow us to understand that before we get to the point where we want to send humans for years at a time. The science has so much incredible capability on Earth or in space. This stuff is huge. It's going to be game-changing for NASA and for medicine on Earth, and then beyond.
While Archer tracked the crew's sleep, movement and overall health. Saliva samples helped scientists understand how the immune system reacts to deep space, and a laser-based communication system tested faster, more efficient ways to send data back to Earth. Alongside this, a set of international CubeSats carried out their own missions, studying everything from radiation to space weather, each one contributing pieces to a much larger puzzle. It turned theory into practice, risk into knowledge, and distance into something manageable. And most importantly, it laid the groundwork for what comes next. Because the path to the moon is open once more, and this time, we're not just visiting.
Continuing to test out every bit of Orion.
Coming back to Earth, 7 miles a second.
When humanity sets big goals, we can bring together genius from around the world.
You have the best people on planet Earth putting this vehicle together.
That's what's up.
To innovate for the benefit of humanity and to inspire the world through discovery.
And here we go.